So there's a little cultivator I bought quite a while ago now, and it's been an absolute godsend, and it saved me a hell of a lot of work because I grow everything in the ground. I don't make raised beds or anything like that, because as far as I'm concerned, we're surrounded by dirt or soil or whatever you want to call it. Okay, so it makes more sense for me to basically plough this land up. Now, a lot of people out there are going to go, oh, don't till your ground and breaks the food web and all this sort of stuff. And it's like, yeah, I get that. But when you're growing in the ground, you pretty much don't have an option. Okay, you got to plough the ground up. Now, I only do it once. I'll let the ground rest for a little bit. I'll introduce manures and organic matter, and then I'll probably plough it up again about 2 weeks later. And that's the only time I till, is when I create a new bed, or I'm just going to go over an old existing bed just to fluff it up a little bit so I can get more organic matter into it. But what I really want to talk about today is these little rototillers here. Now, a lot of these are the same design. Okay, they're a direct drive. They run a little transmission down the back here and spins these little tines around. Now, the problem is that these little tines spin a lot quicker than what these wheels do. So as soon as you give it a bit of throttle, the wheels turn, the tines turn, and they have a tendency to take off on you. Okay, so what I've done, and it works really, really well, is I simply let the air out of the tyres. Okay, these tyres are still pretty firm. Okay, they're pretty rigid, but what happens here is these tyres simply spin on this rim. Now, there's enough friction in between these two parts here to actually give me a little bit of pull, but the things don't take off on you. Okay, and what happens is you can basically hang on to it, and you can basically sculpt the land. You can just start scooping it out. You're not governed by the speed that this thing wants to run at. Okay, I'll show you what I mean. Make sure it's turned on. There's a little bit of choke. Now, this thing, these little Chinese motors, they're absolutely brilliant. The only thing where these little Chinese little contraptions fail is basically their fixings. You can see here, these have snapped. I've had to modify these ones. It's usually the bolts that are really cheap, okay, and you've normally got to replace them within the first, well, I did these in the first week. They all snapped. Okay, so all I did was replace these with something a bit better tensile. But as far as these little motors are concerned, they're absolute genius. Okay, it starts first go every time, and I find this with a lot of little cheap Chinese things that I buy. They're like a quarter of the price of a name brand, and they do just as good a job. Okay, but just be aware of that if you're going to buy cheap little Chinese tools, that the motors themselves are great. It's all the little fixings, okay? All your little screws, all your little bolts, all those sort of things like that. Okay, you look after them just like a normal motor, and they'll give you years and years and years of service. I'll try and do this one-handed. So, look at that. First go, always. So what I was saying, like, this is engaged, but there's no air in the tyres, but it still quite happily pulls itself along because there's basically friction there between the rim and the tyre, so there's enough friction there to pull it along. But the real beauty of letting the air out comes when you start ploughing stuff up. And, give me a second and I'll get up to the little spot that I'm going to plough and I'll show you. So there's a little patch here I ploughed up about a year ago, and had a few things growing up in here, and just left it after a while because I was sort of more concerned about the area down here and getting that finished and getting that up to speed. But what I want to do is basically plough this area up here, and this will be my new corn beds, okay, and I'll get sun all day, okay, so that's a good thing. Now, if I was to do this with a pick and shovel, I'd be out here for 3 weeks doing this, right, and I'd probably get really cranky doing it. Now, secondly, if I was to do like your lasagna garden method, I'd be out here forever trying to collect enough material to build this bed up. So basically my only option is to plough this up, okay, and all this grass that's growing through it will get introduced back into that soil, okay, and it will improve it dramatically. 2 weeks later, I'll come out, I'll plough it up again, But during that time, I'll introduce manures and a little bit more organic matter, and it will completely change the soil structure and profile of this ground. Okay, so let's do it. Let's have a look. Tell me when?
When?
You're right. Okay.
Yeah, it's on.
Okay, so come here. Okay, so you can see how dusty that was when I started, because we haven't had rain here since Christmas. So very, very dry. And my little fella's doing the filming, and he's doing a really good job at it. So I'll introduce a bit of water into this little patch here, and it'll get me started. And what I'll do is I'll just go over it again quickly, just to push a bit of this moisture into the ground. And also what that moisture will do is start breaking down all that grass and all the organic matter that's actually in it. I've now added water into this, and you can see how much it's changed the colour of it back to a nice dark brown colour again. All that grass that was there is now introduced into that native soil. Okay, and now I'm going to basically go over it again with the cultivator, fluff it up again, get that moisture into it. And that's all I'm going to do for about another week, and I'll just leave it, okay? And then probably during that week I'll throw some organic matter into it and throw some manures and all those other little sorts of things. So I'll just go over it again. So because the ground is so hard here, I've basically adapted this method to suit this ground. Now if you had beautiful rich soil, wouldn't be a problem, okay? But this ground, when it goes dry, it's absolutely so rock hard that there is basically no other way. I've tried that many ways to do this, there is none. Okay, this is the best way that I find to do it. Okay, rip it up. Now normally I'll wait till after we get a bit of rain. We haven't had rain, wow, since probably Christmas, I think. So 8 months since we've had rain here. It's very dry and this ground is very hard. Okay, so I'm basically not doing it at the perfect time, but I need to get this done. And basically what I've ended up with is a little 3x3 metre square, so 9 square metres of new garden that I can plant corn into and whatever else I want to plant into. So this will be a permanent fixture now in this garden, and over time it'll just slowly just start creeping up and meeting up with everything else. So it's a time-based procedure, but that's what gardening is. Stay persistent and work out whatever works for you. Okay, if it works for you, use it. Okay, don't use methods just because other people use them. What you've got to do is trial and error and work out what's going to work for you in your environment and wherever you live on this globe. Okay, so thanks for watching, and I'll update this little garden as the corn progresses and as I plant it, and have a good time, keep growing, and I'll see you later. Bye bye.